I came home to Canada, everybody knows I have cases of FBI wiretap tapes of the Italian mob. These are just a few of them. When I crossed the border into Canada, they did everything they could to try to delay me coming to Canada. I was watched all the time I was here. The FBI were in town during my first debate in Sussex. The first person to walk up and shake my hand before the debate on June 18th was a retired RCMP officer that I know quite well. They used to employ me as an expert witness in provincial court. What's his name? Bob McGrath. Bob McGrath, I took him to the car and showed him these tapes. Showed him the letters to his former boss, the police commissioner, and why I was home. During the debate, the member of Parliament at the time, John Herron, kind of alluded of when there was an argument about the gun laws. He alluded that I was a Hell's Angel. I am no Hell's Angel. I do ride many bikes. I've sold hundreds, probably thousands of them. But the last thing you should call me is a 1%er or a biker of any sort. But the ICMP are quick to use that label because they look at that as the #1 organized crime in Canada. It is not. But that said, these are FBI wiretap tapes of the Italian mob. Everybody knows I have them. 94 U.S. attorneys in America have a copy of one tape in particular. You now have one. It's tape number 139. I picked that mobster because that particular tape covers people from many states, and they had no right to record a lot of the people on them. I will be giving that man that tape so he can sue the government for the violations of his civil rights in America. These tapes I am forwarding to the Iraq Commission to support my allegations. They are evidence. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. I am not entitled to have these tapes. I am just a person. I should not have these tapes. I tried to give them to the Massachusetts State Police, the FBI, the ICMP, 8 different police departments, the Florida State Police. I simply do not know who else to try to give it to. When I pull these tapes out, cops run away from me. Everyone says, give it to someone who has jurisdiction over you. That only person can be the king. I came home. When I came home, the Customs and Immigration, look, they x-rayed my car, everything in it. As soon as they put their hands on the tapes, I said, don't touch them unless you want to keep them. They said, oh, we don't want them. I served them the documents and told them to tell Ann, our Solicitor General, that I was home. Anyway, I come to Fredericton, and this is where it concerns you. I came to Fredericton June 24th. My mission was to serve the lawyer T.J. Burke. Now, lawyers have a bad habit of avoiding, delaying, denying, and lying. So the first thing I do is always make sure I have witnesses, take pictures, or send by certified mail. So the fact that they receive the stuff is irrefutable. You understand? With T.J. Burke, I was well aware that his office was 710 Queen Street. I went into the legislature building, left the pile of documents to give to him at the door as per the rules. Right? They stayed with the commissioner. I was given the tag. And I went through the legislature. I went first to the library to look for a man by the name of Charles LeBlanc. Charles LeBlanc is rather an outspoken activist over Ripon in particular. He's well known about the neighborhood. So anyway, I thought he would be a good fella to witness me me go to 710 Queen Street and leave the stuff in the slot as per the rules, to the attention of T.J. Burke. I went up into the legislature to see what was going on and to make eye contact with Leroy Armstrong so he would know that I was there. I actually didn't make eye contact, but on June 24th there was a lot to do over the recent health issues and the closing of hospital beds, and the Minister of Health was there with the various bureaucrats around him, and one of them I know quite well, and he'll go unnamed as we speak, but he's a Deputy Minister of Health. He will witness what I did in there if necessary, and that is nothing. Nothing. I did ask in conversational only Commissioner if they'd ever seen such a thing as a debate in the legislature, between different parties. I don't know. And I was asking out of human, curiosity, how does one debate MLA? Do you have a commission, or do they debate? I don't know, right? I am no politician. And I was asking another man like I would ask you. So anyway, downstairs, there was a glass case. I couldn't find Charles Long back and left. There was a glass case where they were showing where Champlain made his trip up through the Bay of Fundy. Now, at the time, it was June 24th. The next day, I served Paul Zed at his office, Clark Drummey, before he went to the airport with John Aaron to meet Mr. Martin. You understand, I'm playing politics. I am a political animal these days. You understand? Paul Zed was running for the Liberal seat in St. John.
So you served him in St. John?
He's up council of Clark and Drummey, so I served him at Clark and Drummey. Just going to the...
Where in St. John?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew that Martin was coming to town for the St. Croix celebration. The mystery was when Martin was coming. And as you know, to approach a federal politician is somewhat hard to do, and best avoided. But I wanted to make a scene, as a politician will, to make the scene in St. Croix the same time Martin did. Anyway, there's this glass case there, and as I was looking at Champlain's trip, I could see the dates. And where Champlain had set up camp was June 26th, so I was saying, that's the day Martin will be there, and no doubt it was. But as I was looking at the case, the Sergeant of Arms, who wouldn't tell me his name, I found it out, his name is Dan Brosseur or whatever, he claimed it was Jean-Claude something or other. That's what I understood it to be. He come up and said, there's lots of history here, and I said, yes, he was with two undercover police.
That was on the 24th.
On the 24th of May, as I was looking at the class case. He was looking at, I was looking at the class case, he come up, there's lots of history, and he said, can I talk to you outside for a minute? And I said, who are you? He said, I'm the Sergeant of Arms. He said, I understand you want to serve.
Was he in uniform?
No. He was just a guy. I said, who are you? Right? He said he was the Sergeant at Arms. He was with two undercover cops. They had their little necklaces on, with the badge. And I said, what do you want? He said, I'd like to talk to you outside. And I said, what about? He said, I understand you want to serve one of the MLAs. I said, what business is it of yours? It is none of his business. You know what I mean? He said, well, we need to talk outside. And I said, okay. So we went back to the commissioner's post. I turned in the name tag. He gives me the documents. We step outside. He says, you're banned from the legislature building forever. You can never enter the property. And I said, why? He said, because you tried to serve an MLA. I said, I did not. And I didn't. The commissioner was in charge of the documents. Do you understand? I said, what's your name again? And he said, Jean-Claude something or other. I couldn't understand his name, or I misunderstood.
He did not have a name tag?
No, he never identified himself with an ID.
Okay.
The cops didn't either. But I said, do you think, and I asked him this question directly, do you think that you have jurisdiction over me? He said, yes. I said, good. You take this stuff, I'll get T.J. Burke with more documents.